Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Ranch Horse Resource Podcast. This is a show where we talk about everything ranch horse, straight from the high desert country of northern Nevada. I'm Rhonda Van Norman, and I co-host this show along with my husband, Ty. Coming to us today, though, is a special guest. It's our daughter, Anna Van Norman. This is going to be the first of a two-part series where we talk about a horse that wants to run off. So Anna has one of those stories that she's going to share with us, and I'm laughing a little because I'm sure that her adventure will resonate with many of you and likely spark a story of your own. Because I think most of us have had a time when both the horse and the rider were unsure of themselves, and you might say the horse spit the bit and just plain run off. But before we get into the details, I would like to preface a situation that Anna was in with a little of her backstory. So, as you could imagine, Anna grew up on our family ranch, riding horses and moving cows. My husband, Ty, would often say about her that she was his little shadow because she liked to go with him every chance she could. Ty always made sure she had a good horse to ride, and so she grew up confident and savvy on those old bridle horses. Now, if you're not aware, the Van Norman family in northern Nevada has a long history of raising, riding, and selling quality American quarter horses. Clear back in 2001, their family ranch received the AQHA Best Remuda Award, and when interviewed for that story, Bill Van Norman, which is Ty's dad, and we'll meet Anna, but that would be her grandfather, he remarked that the American quarter horse's disposition was so amazing, you could put your kids on him and just go to work. But sometimes, like we all know, in order to get horses to that gentle bridle horse stage where they're confident of their job, there's a bit of a learning curve. And sometimes in the process, there's a little dust that gets kicked up. And, maybe sometimes even things get a little Western. With that in mind, Anna did have a lot of miles under her belt on those good, gentle Van Norman horses. But there was a time, too, when she was given the opportunity to experience the green broke horse. And so today she's going to tell us about her horse that she called Scooter and a few of the things that she learned along the way when he had it in his mind to bolt and run. Anna, I can't wait to hear the story about you riding Scooter and how things didn't go well.
Yeah, so one time Dad and I were moving yearlings in this allotment we called Dorsey, and we had to go from one field to another. And I was probably about 14 or 15. Scooter, my horse, was probably about 4. And so it was just Dad and I, and we had to go through a gate. So I was the designated person to go open the gate. And I think this was like one of the first times that I was riding Scooter out, like in an outside setting. So I trotted ahead, got off, opened the gate, and I went to get back on, and I stuck my foot in the stirrup and got like halfway on, and he jumped forward and started to run off. So I kind of like stepped off / fell off, but I had my hold of my lead rope because it was through my belt, so I grabbed it with my hand and I kind of jerked him around. And then after that, I was kind of like scared, being a chicken. I didn't really want to get on again because I could tell that was going to keep happening because he was pretty tight and bothered and switching eyes. And
so you were thinking, if I try this again and he jumps forward and I'm only halfway on, and my horse might get away from me and then be running out through the brush, dragging my reins, and I'll be absolutely no help to Dad and afoot.
Yeah. And like when you try some things and sometimes they get worse?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that was going to happen.
So you were afraid things were getting progressively worse.
Yeah, because I did try, like, at least 2, maybe 3 more times to get on, and it was getting worse.
He was getting more bothered. And
Yeah, like, he was getting bothered sooner. Like, I wouldn't even have to, like, get up, like, on the side, and he would start going off. So Dad's coming with the cows, and I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of the gate, so I guess I'll lead him down, at least so I'm not in the middle of the gate.
I bet your dad was wondering what in the world is taking so long. Why hasn't she come back to the leaders to turn him through the gate?
Yeah, Dad gets there, and he's mad, like, what the heck have you been doing, and yada yada. And I was like, well, I can't get on my horse.
Huh, that's so funny. I can just hear your dad saying now, what do you mean you can't get on your horse? Like you've been getting on a horse for 10 years all by yourself. What do you mean you can't get on your horse?
Yeah. So he gets off of his horse, and he grabs my rein, and I'm still off of my horse. And he's like, okay, get on. So I go to get on, same thing. I get halfway up there, and the scooter jumps forward and is going to take off. But Dad had the reins, so he pulled him back. Anyways, so then Dad was like, get all the way on. So I got all the way on, and then Dad was like, get off. So I got off, and he made me practice getting on and off a few times while I held him. And then, we don't have time to, like, dink around too much. So we got my horse sacked out a little bit, and then, put the cows through the gate, and that was all good. So then we had to go check some other yearlings that were in the field that we had just put these ones in, but they were up this ridge, like on this plateau. So we go up there, and we find one that we have to doctor. So Dad necks it, and I'm, like, still kind of being a chicken. Like, I knew, like, oh boy, I'm going to have to rope something. Like, I was kind of dreading it. So I get my rope down, and, he's all right. He's maybe a little bothered, but not too bad. Like, I can control him. So I heel it, and Dad ties off, and Dad comes around to set my ropes, and Scooter was not really liking Dad down there, and he didn't want to get closer because I was fairly ways away back, and he didn't want to get closer. So I was trying to make him get closer, and while I'm, like, jabbing him pretty good to get up there, this calf starts struggling and kicking, and
that's all he needed, huh?
That was the perfect
I'm outta
excuse to spit the bit pretty much and go running off.
I love it, Anna. I can just see it in my mind's eye right now. The dust is boiling up behind you. Your hat's long popped off, probably laying in a badger hole out there somewhere. And Scooter's just flying out through the rocks and headed up the mountain like the devil's after him. Now I'm curious, were you crying, screaming, making any noise, hooping and hollering?
I was making no noise. I might have been shedding a few tears. My rope was obviously gone, and in the process of that, my reins I lost my reins too, so they're just like flopping on his neck. It's so funny because I wasn't in my mind thinking like, oh, I gotta get my reins and like double him, like get him stopped.
You were just long for the ride.
I was just like,
where are we going?
Like my reins were flopping, and I was just like riding. And so finally I was like, okay, like, what are you doing? You're just getting farther and farther away. So
you had a hello moment.
Yeah. So I get my reins and I get them stopped, and I go back to Dad. And, Dad's kind of like wondering what the heck I was doing and blah, blah. And then he tries to hand me my rope back. And that was like a little ordeal in itself. So I finally was able to get my rope back, and we doctored it without any other incidences for the rest of the day. And this was like the first of a handful of times that Scooter ran off with me. So there definitely were some things that what I know now I could have done back then, but I didn't know.
Well, let's go over that. But fast forward for a minute. I do know that Scooter got over the running off phase, and he turned out to be a really great horse.
Yeah, probably one of my best
one
horses.
that the kids could ride and people crawled all over him and under him or whatever they wanted to do. But when he was young, he did have a spot where things would bother him and he'd take off. Back up to when you got off to open the gate and you were having trouble getting back on your horse. If you could redo that now, what are some things you would do differently?
Well, first off, back then I didn't know how to like double your horse when you went to get on. Like, yeah, I knew that you did that like on colts, like if you're starting them. But I figured, he's 4. Probably don't need to do that. Well, not this time. That's what I would do first off, is get his head around like to my knee and get on and keep it there until I'm on, and then, let him go. And he probably wouldn't have taken off. And if he had tried to take off, he would have been doubled and his butt would have been, swinging around. So it's not like he got the jump and could like just go off like a rabbit. Like he would have some difficulty.
So I heard it put like this one time from a high school teacher I had that said to us high schoolers, if you guys are going to act like kindergartners, I'll treat you like a kindergartner. If you want to act like an adult, I'll treat you like an adult. And I've always laughed at that. And this story reminds me of that because I think Scooter might have been acting like a kindergartner, and maybe you should have treated him like a kindergartner. Gave him a little more time, not trusted him so much, treated him more like a young one. Probably would have helped if you'd have moved him around some and got his feet moving, huh? Got him a little more comfortable with you before you decided to get on. I'm sure he was uncomfortable being there by himself and was probably thinking, I don't want to be here all by myself. I want to go where the other horses are. And so that's just part of his learning process to learn to stay with you. But yeah, definitely. I could think that would be difficult for many people to get on a horse that won't stand still. And so the ideal situation is that you have them prepared in a corral before you go out with them. But often on a young horse, that doesn't come on their learning right away. It comes in time for them to stand still. Sometimes you just got to be aggressive and get on. And once you're on, it's really better than the struggle on the ground, isn't it?
Yeah. And back then, like, I didn't know how to, like, be ready to get on fast. And when you're on, like, as soon as your butt hits the saddle, like, you're on. Like, you're ready. Like, if something happens, you're ready. Not just, like, swing on, put my foot in the stirrup, get my rope situated, like this lollygag.
So you have learned through the years to get prepared in a mindset to get on and be ready. If he decides to run off, you're ready with your reins, you're ready in your mind.
Yeah.
You're ready to stop him before he kind of gets started. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of our listeners have had similar situations happen if they've been on horses very much, because almost all young horses get scared sometimes, and everybody, it seems like, even if you're a young person on a pony, have had one run off, and it's a really unpleasant feeling. But it gives the riders so much confidence if they've learned to be confident that they can shorten up on a rein and just pull that head around, stay with it until the horse kind of bends, huh?
Yeah. And also what helped me a lot after that is, like, I would even practice that on, like, my bridle horses. Not necessarily, like, bending their head around, but just getting on, being prepared to, like, get ready to, like, hang on or,
Oh, that's a good idea. You practice in a safe situation for a time when a horse might not feel so safe under you. That's a really great.
Which obviously, you don't need to do that on your bridle horse every time, but just every once in a while to keep yourself
your mind
sharp.
Wow, that's cool. Now, talk us through the runoff part. What would you do different if you had to do that again?
Well, for one, I wouldn't just be like riding along, like lollygagging. I don't even know what I was doing, but I like get your reins and like pull his head around. Like, bind him up in some brush. Come on, like, just
You'd
don't
be a
just
little more
ride there
aggressive.
like a trick rider, just letting the reins flop.
Trick rider. Maybe that's what you were wanting to be, out there through the brush. I'm a trick rider. Yeah, those are good things to think about. Get your rein shorter. Get on one rein. One rein. How many times have we heard that coached at us? One rein, one rein. We pull on both reins on a young horse. That doesn't always go as well as we'd like it to. So get one rein if necessary. Did Dad give you any other advice after this situation?
Yeah, so after this, I kept riding him, and he ran off with me a few times after this day. But before that, we went in a small corral at our house, and Dad made me practice getting on and off by myself, not with him holding on, by myself, like get him in a corner somewhere and, bend his head around and practice. I practiced getting on and getting off fast and like fluently until, my horse got to where he wouldn't be too bothered. Like he might, spook a little bit, but also I was there with my hand to stop him. Because whereas before, the first time, like I didn't even think about like pulling his head around if he was going to jump forward, but just kind of like stopping it before it got started.
Good story, Anna. Thanks for sharing. Good tips. I'm sure for an experienced hand, they have a lot more tools in their toolbox. But for some of us that are just learning, it's good to be reminded to get your reins short before you get on a horse if they're bothered. And it doesn't matter how old the horse is. If the horse is showing signs that he's uncomfortable with the mounting and dismounting, treat him like a colt and get on him like a colt. Get one rein a little shorter and be prepared to get on and be in control of the situation. And if a horse wants to kind of run off with you, same thing. Get a short rein, get their head around, not just be along for the ride. Well, join us back here next week for part 2 when I talk to Ty again about this topic and pull from him some thoughts on the situation. I'll get some scenarios and maybe some tips on how to get the horse prepared so this doesn't happen in the first place. And I bet he's got some good ideas too for the times when, for whatever reason, your horse has a mind to take off faster than necessary and leave your hat in the brush somewhere. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the show so you can get the next episode when it hits the ground. And just for fun, look in the show notes because I've left a couple links. One is for the video of the interview with Bill Van Norman, where he talks about the incredible disposition of the American Quarter Horse. And there's also a place where you could sign up for our newsletter or check out our website. Well, anyway, you guys, have a great day. We'll catch you on down the line.